Hey, my name's Dave, and today we're going to be talking about Go and integrating SQL into a Go application. For our purposes, we're going to use SQLite, but you can use any variant of SQL, Postgres, MySQL. It's not really very important. What is important is how to actually use it inside of your Go application. So I'm going to put together a few-part series. I'm not going to promise how many parts, but it's going to be a few parts, and they're just going to be small videos that kind of break down each individual step of the way. All right, so let's begin. The first part of this process is obviously going to be project setup. So let's get everything started and let's make this project. Actually, before we start that, I'm just going to show you exactly what we're going to end up with at the end of this project. So we're going to have something that looks like this. It's going to be a web API. There's going to be it's going to be a newsfeed, something basic like if you can imagine a Facebook wall. There'll be a number of posts. In this case, they look like that. They'll have some content, and you'll be able to get them using this get posts endpoint. And if you'd like to, you're able to, let me try to zoom this in. You're able to make a post request to /posts, and it'll add a new item to that list of news items. And this will also be persistent because it'll be stored in a database. Great. Okay, cool. So we've got that out of the way. Let's get it done. So first thing you want to do is create your project. So that obviously involves making a folder where your project's going to live. I'm going to call it newsfeed. Cool. And open it in your editor of choice. Mine is Visual Studio Code, but feel free to use whatever. No big deal. And now we're gonna need to do a few things. Firstly, we're going to initialize our Go project. So go mod init. This is going to initialize our project as a Go module, newsfeed. So I'm going to name my project newsfeed and initialize it. So it creates this Go mod file, and it's basically, if you've used Node before, this is like a package JSON where you get all of your dependencies listed in here, and this acts as the root of your project. And just to make sure everything's working fine, we'll just make a main.go. Package is main, func main, blip plop, fmt.println, hello, and let's just say go run main.go, and it should say hello. Cool. So Go is installed, everything's working, we seem to be able to start this whole process. Okay, cool. Now let's talk about basic project structure. So this is going to be a web API, obviously. One pattern that I like to follow is something called domain-driven design, which is sort of extended in Go with package-oriented development. And that's the idea that your application is composed of little modules, little parts. These packages themselves are composable in the sense where they are entirely sort of a unit of work, and you're able to, or sort of, how do you describe that? Like they have their own responsibility, and they will do a certain task, and you're able to take that in isolation, that package in isolation, and then port it between projects, and it shouldn't have any reliance on external dependencies or anything like that. Or if it does, they're sort of they're composed into it. So let's have a look at what that looks like. Typically, you'll have a CMD folder. That CMD folder is where your application entry point will exist. So in our case, we'll put main in there. Then you'll have two other folders. There's platform and there's kit. Whoops, kit lives out here. So this is all flat on the root directory. Platform is a bunch of dependencies, packages for your application, say CMD, that lives in CMD, to consume. So we can create packages in here that are something like, let's see. In our case, we're going to actually make a newsfeed. So the newsfeed package would live here, and main.go and CMD would import newsfeed from platform. Conversely, if newsfeed, say, depended on, let's say, like a hashing algorithm or something like bcrypt or something like that, so you'd say bcrypt, and newsfeed would import bcrypt. But if bcrypt was used between multiple projects, it would belong in kit. So kit is kind of like your, I guess you would call it a folder where you keep all your dependencies or your packages that are used between separate projects. Nowadays, it's actually not that necessary because you can straight up put these in your Git repository, like in a Git repository in your Git solution. So this could be stored in GitHub, this could be stored in Bitbucket, and Go can just straight up fetch it from that location. But previously, you'd have to vendor these and put them somewhere, and this is usually how you would do it. You'd store it in a Kit folder, and then that Kit folder would be the things that go between different projects. I consider these elevations, sort of like they sort of promoted packages. So if a package is in isolation, it doesn't require anything from the main application, I'll put it into platform, and as soon as that package is required by another application or another sort of microservice or service in my ecosystem, it then gets promoted to Kit, or in other words, it gets promoted up into Git. Cool, so that's episode 1. We'll see you in the next one.